Well, welcome, you guys. I'm David Keathly. I'm a lecturer at Computer Science and Engineering at the University of North Texas. So for some of you, this may be the first time you've heard about the BA and IT program, or BATE as we like to refer to it. So we'll start with a little bit of background, and then I'll tell you sort of the real reason that we're here talking about this today. So you can go ahead and go to the first one, Mark. So this program started in around 2008 with about 42 students and grew fairly quickly. Had our first graduates in 2010. We received a Curriculum Innovation Award in 2009. And one of the reasons for this, as you'll see here in a moment, is that this degree was designed from the very beginning to really fit in with students coming from community colleges. So whereas in many cases, a lot of students take other courses in networking or other kinds of things, and those don't transfer into engineering degrees or other degrees. This one was designed to accommodate those courses, as many as possible, up to 21 hours, so that students could really maximize their transfer credit. Currently, we're running about 150 to 160 students with about 30 to 40 graduates per year, but as you'll see as we get to the end of this, the anticipation is that that's going to go up quite a bit here in the next few years. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the next one. So these were some of the goals and constraints. We spent a lot of time putting this thing together and talked to industry in our area and some other areas about what kind of skills did they need IT graduates to have. And of course, in the DFW area, we have a wide variety of employers, from very technical companies who need their IT people to be very tech savvy, to ones who need sort of the standard kind of IT flavors of things because they're not a high technology business. We also wanted to maximize that potential transfer credit that I mentioned. Because we're in the College of Engineering, it was very important that we be able to get ABET accreditation, and ABET does have an accreditation for IT programs, and we have gone through that. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And had to meet some of the other requirements for College of Engineering programs. So engineering programs usually have to have at least Calculus 1, and you have to have a couple of lab sciences and things like that. So we had to meet those kinds of requirements as well. So that was a challenge fitting all that in. I mentioned the transfer credits, also lots of opportunities for hands-on experience. We'll talk about that when we look at the curriculum a little bit. We wanted to be sure that given the many different job categories and job titles and things that people might go into, that within the curriculum at the baseline, they had quite a few exposure to a lot of different IT topics. And you'll see that when we look at the course things. And then also give them the ability to really customize the degree based on where they want to go with it. So, and that's one of the reasons we got that award for curriculum innovation. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the program. So I mentioned meeting the articulation needs as well as the skills. We actually have been through ABET accreditation now twice, and our current ABET accreditation is good until 2021. So we passed that hurdle, and that was really kind of one of the litmus tests for where we were going to be able to go with this. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, so this gives you a little overview of the curriculum, and we'll look at some more specifics in a minute. But of course, we had to be able to take all the Texas core, and I'm sure regardless of what state you're in, you have certain core requirements, the government and history and all those kinds of things that everyone has to have, English, et cetera. Then we had some engineering core. In our engineering core, there's lab sciences like physics and chemistry or biology, math, at least through Calculus 1, in some cases higher than that, depending on the degree, and both regular English as well as technical communications. And all these were courses that could also be transferred from the community college. Then at the computer science and IT core, some programming courses, much like probably your programming 1 and 2, and things like that. We wanted to give them some analysis and design experience to kind of fit in the roles of system or business analysts. So some requirements, analysis and design, UML, those kinds of things. Both introduction to databases and also database admin, since those are common roles for IT folks, networking and network admin, some background in security, cybersecurity, project management, specifically with an IT flavor. And then we have a 2-semester capstone sequence that's part of this, where we have projects that are come in from industry-sponsored projects that they work on in a team for 2 semesters. Web development and administration, user interface design, etc. So kind of trying to cover all the basics. And then their supporting area, which is a total of 21 hours. And this is where we can slide in those things that they did in their associate's degree or their certificates or whatever that may be. So those, what we at least in Texas call the workforce skills courses. So we can slide those into that supporting area. But if they didn't do that, I'm sorry. Was there a question? Okay, so if they didn't do those kinds of courses, then they could also then design a custom suite of courses to fit in here. So in many cases, they are technical courses, but we do have students who do things like one of the very common choices that's outside of the IT areas, they will do leveling courses to do an MBA. So they'll take all their accounting and business law and those kind of things in the supporting area. They might also, we've had some students do pre-med, pre-law, some people doing criminal justice and tying that in with their IT background. So quite a bit of diverse ability to tie their IT degree to the particular industry they're interested in working in or to a particular mix of skill sets that they would like to develop and customize. Okay, let's go to the next one. So the overall degree program from start to finish is 121 hours, 42 of that is advanced hours. There's 8 hours of science with labs, that's usually physics and chemistry. 7 hours of math, probability statistics, and Cal 1 being the required ones. And of course, many students also have to take pre-calculus and maybe college algebra. The 3 hours of advanced oral and written communications, that's above and beyond their normal first English composition course. So then they take a tech writing course. 55 hours in those sort of core areas that we mentioned, and then the 21-hour supporting area. The core part, the Texas Common Core kind of stuff, is the 27 hours. We also have some specialty things at UNT that students can use in that supporting area. We have something called Teach North Texas, where students can get their teacher certification using their hours for that, and then be certified to teach computer science courses in secondary education. And we have we have a security certificate, we have a gaming certificate, and some other things that they can choose to use that supporting area to configure if they would like to. Okay, let's go to the next one. And then one of the things that we added that wasn't originally part of the degree, but this was part of our going through with our built of things that they would like to see, is about 5 or 6 years ago, we added some admin courses. So students were taking computer networking courses, they were taking cybersecurity courses, they were taking database courses, and at least in our area, the industry said, you know, it'd be nice if they also had the admin versions of those. So it could be a network admin or a security admin or a database admin, in addition to sort of more the development type courses, like to be a database analyst or something like that. So we added those 3 courses in as part of the required curriculum. So they take those, and then the 21 hours that I've already mentioned, the supporting area, where they can specialize in. These are just a short list of some of the kinds of things that students have done. Certainly the majority probably do something in security or networking or programming or something like that, but we do have students who do things outside of that. Technical management's one that's become popular lately because we've added a program at UNT in engineering project management, so students combine those. We also have students in other science areas doing computational sciences like computational chemistry, computational biology. We have a lot of students who are in geography who are doing GIS kinds of things, and they'll combine that with this degree. So a lot of flexibility to make it fit with a lot of other programs and kind of have a custom experience. Okay, let's go to the next one. So a student who really works the system, so to speak, could potentially have up to 79 hours of that 121 be earned at the community college. Typical's around 40 if they just do more certificate kinds of things and some of their core, or even just a really basic associate's degree. But they can, with a little bit of finesse and taking the right courses and kind of knowing where they want to go to begin with, get up to almost 80 hours from the community college that would transfer into this degree, and then still be able to graduate with a bachelor's degree. So we continue to try and look for ways to make that happen, and to work with individual schools to get them to maybe adjust some things so that students can transfer more of those credits into the program, so that they don't waste anything, they don't leave anything laying on the table that they've taken somewhere else. Okay, let's go to the next one. So let's talk about where this is going. So part of being part of the CTC and the CCN is that, we go to conferences and everything else. We talk about ideas. So several years ago, and I doubt he's on the phone, but I'll give him at least part of the credit. Bill Sachek and I were at a conference and having a little discussion after the conference while we were having some adult beverages. And one of the things he said is, wow, I have students who would really like to be able to take this, but they're probably not going to move to Texas to do it. And we don't have any schools in California that are doing those kind of things. So it sure would be great if there's some way that we could meet in the middle and find some way to offer this. And I said, well, maybe there is. So we started exploring the idea of doing some of this program online, in particular the upper division courses, so that, again, we'd have that sort of seamless transition with the community college. It's been a long process. There were a lot of things we had to learn about. We've had some changes at UNT. I think we've changed administrators for our online programs and the department that handles all that about 3 times, and each time they've decided they have a different process for us to go through to get online courses approved. So we've had to stop and start a few times, but we're finally there. So I'm happy to say that in the spring we're offering our first either 4 or 5 classes online that are part of this program in the 3,000 and 4,000 level. And then there'll be about 4 to 5 courses each semester coming online over the next 1.5 to 2 years until they're all offered online in some kind of a rotation. So they won't all be offered every semester, but some will be fall, some will be spring, so that you could actually complete this degree online after you satisfy the lower division courses at your community college. So that's kind of where we've been trying to get. We're finally to that point of starting to offer some of those, so we're pretty excited about that. And the next step then is to identify some partners to work with. So that's kind of part of the reason for this webinar today, is to let you know where we're at, and then to talk about what we can do moving on from here. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. So there's several things that are possible. One of the things that we have talked about is having partners, because this is an online program that, at least initially, we didn't want to offer just as an open online program, because there are certain things, especially Capstone, that would be very difficult to offer if we just had random students from various parts of the country taking this program. Because if they're going to work on a project for a business, it'd be nice if they at least had some consistency and we're all from a similar area and things like that, at least to start with. I think eventually we could get to the point where we could do it a little more open, but we wanted to start out with some partners so that we had a little bit more structure to this, a little bit more of a cohort type mentality. So one of the ideas is that we're looking for people, particularly in the CCN, who would like to partner with this. And there's a couple of pieces for that we'll talk about in a minute. So it would be offered to your students. They would remain at your campus, finishing up their history and government and math and science and lower level networking, programming, those kind of courses, while they then once they have the prerequisites out of the way, they would start taking their upper division IT courses at the same time. So they could do that concurrently. One of the goals that I'll talk more about in a minute is we would like in this partnership arrangement that we have mentors on those campuses. So we're looking for ways to provide stipends for them, a course release or something equivalent, so that they could sort of act as an advisor and to help find capstone projects and that kind of stuff. There's also the opportunity in the future of potentially teaching some of the classes, and that would be separate from that, but being one of the online instructors once everything's up and running well. So as an adjunct, so you work for UNT for those particular courses. So obviously we want to start with the CCN because that's kind of where the idea came from, and so we'd like to offer these things to those people first. It's especially good. I know I've talked to over the last 3 or 4 years as we've been percolating this online idea. I've talked with a lot of people who are in an area where, especially rural areas and stuff, where maybe there's not a university nearby that's convenient, especially, if the students get their associate's degree and then they go out and start working, so they need something that has a little more flexible time frames and class offerings. So they may not be a university nearby at all, if it's several hundred miles away or something like that, to finish a 4-year degree. Or more likely even is that there may be one, but it doesn't offer an IT bachelor's degree, or doesn't offer one that's going to really accept most of their credits that they have from the community college. So they would end up almost having to start over, which has been up until this degree, the choice for a lot of them. Or they have to do something that's not really structured for what they want to do. I know for a long time UNT has had another bachelor's degree that would accept quite a few more of your community college transfer credits, but it's sort of a general studies degree. It's not specifically an engineering degree or not specifically an IT degree. You could do IT and other things with it, but you ended up basically with some kind of a university studies or general studies kind of a bachelor's degree. So that doesn't fit what a lot of the students want to accomplish by going ahead and getting their next level of degree. Okay, go ahead and go to the next one. So the other thing that we've been doing a little bit through the CCN University subgroup, and this may apply to some of you, is we've also been talking to schools about potentially mentoring them to help develop similar programs. We put a lot of effort and a lot of documentation, everything else into putting this program together, and we've navigated the ABET hurdle and all those kind of things. So we have a little bit of experience now in what works and what doesn't, and those kinds of things. So obviously, I don't think UNT can satisfy potentially all the need for everybody all across the United States that might eventually have students that want to do something like this. And especially as we talk about moving into the next generation of the whole CCN, where we're going to have the regional hubs, then it would make a whole lot of sense to have universities in each of those regions that could support the students in that region in doing something like this. So that's another possibility. I don't know who all's on the call, so I don't know if there's any university partners on the call or not. But even if not, some of you may know people at a university in your region that might be interested in trying to put something like this together, and so we can help them with that as well. So we're certainly more than willing to share. Another thing that I'm working on right now, and this is part of the whole partnership thing, are some fairly common fill-in-the-blank sort of articulation agreements, because, of course, if we're going to transfer your credits to our university and you're not in Texas, we have to have something in place to specify how each of those credits is going to transfer and count for our courses. So we certainly have those kinds of things. And we can also then work with universities to help develop those as well. There's possibility of joint degree programs. There's a couple of us that have talked about offering some programs where the same degree might be offered at more than one university, and we kind of co-share the teaching load and those kinds of things. So there may be other ideas as well. So if you have 4-year schools in your area, or if, I know some of the community colleges now are starting to offer 4-year degrees, there may be opportunities for partnerships there as well. Okay, go ahead and go to the next one.
Hey, David, I got one question from the chat box.
Okay.
Do you envision that students will complete all their coursework at the community college first and then join a cohort at UNT, or intermingle community college and UNT courses?
So I would say probably the best strategy for most students would be to intermingle them. What ideally for me, and that's why we'd like to have people there at the various schools that might be interested in this, is you help students do the thing that's going to benefit them the most. So they get their prerequisites that they need for the upper division credits out of the way fairly quickly, their math, their science, their introductory programming courses, and then they start taking these upper division IT courses, and at the same time then they can fill in with their government and their history and their psychology and whatever, art history or whatever it is they have to take to satisfy their core requirements. Because one of the problems sometimes is if you finish all your lower division credits first and then you start trying to take the upper division ones, you run into prerequisite streams where maybe you can only take 1 or 2 classes until you've satisfied the prerequisites. So to me, a blended approach probably makes the most sense. They're also not overloading themselves by taking lots and lots of really highly technical content courses all at the same time. They can throw in a more core, non-technically rigorous kind of course to give them a little bit of a break each semester. So Certainly you could do either, but if a student came to me and was asking my opinion, is probably the direction I would try to steer them in. Is there any follow on to that question?
Separate from that kind of, she assumes you'll mention out-of-state tuition costs at some point. That's another question.
Sure. Okay. So from a next steps perspective, then I can address some of those kinds of things. Certainly, if you have university in your area that might be interested in being part of this, or having us help mentor them to develop a similar program, we can talk to those. If you're interested in if you're at a community college, you're interested in being part of this, what we're doing right now is I'm going to have an application little form ready in January 2020 that we'll send out through the CC, and I'll get Mark to send that out for us. And then we'll start working on these articulation agreements. What I'd like to have is about 7-ish, 7 plus or minus 2 initial partners to do this once we've got all the courses available online. I'm planning to submit a grant proposal next year to help with the initial mentor funding until the program really gets off the ground and it's funding itself. So I would want partners to be part of that grant, to be part of that initial round, and then the idea would be that then each year, at least from the grant funding perspective, we'd add a few more partners. So, and then we continue to do that after the end of that grant as well. So if you're interested in any of those kinds of things, here at the end, it's actually on the first slide as well, is my email address. You can let me know, and then I can send you out that material when it's available after the holidays. And we're also looking at seeking some grant funding for scholarships. So being able to offer students some financial help in doing the second part, basically. Once we have all the classes in the rotation, then we can look at offering some students who might not otherwise be able to afford moving on to finishing their bachelor's degree right away, some scholarship opportunities from the various community colleges. So as far as tuition and things go, the way currently that our office that handles our online programs is working things is our online courses, if you're within 50 miles of our campus, you pay regular tuition just like everybody else, just like if you were coming to campus. If you're outside of that 50-mile radius or you're out of state, they have an alternative model where it's just an instructional fee. So it's not based on in-state or out-of-state rates like it normally would be. So it's just an online course rate. I don't know what the number is off the top of my head right now. It's a little bit more than in-state, but it's not as much as normal out-of-state tuition. So it's right in between that. But it's based on that you're taking the courses online and you're not coming to campus from somewhere else. So by January, I should have the hard numbers that I'll include with the information that we'll be sending out. But that's the way we're currently doing other programs like this. So the anticipation is that we'll do this program the same way.
David,
yeah.
David, what is in-state tuition? People from across the country probably don't realize that we're still on the less expensive side of things.
Yeah, ours is, I'm trying to remember what the rate is per credit hour.
Just doing a prop.
Yeah, it's certainly more than you guys at the community college.
Well, yeah, we're super cheap.
Yeah. I think it's around, I think last time I paid it, at least it was about 100 to 150 a credit hour.
Wow.
But I'll get some hard numbers and send them out to you guys.
There's one more chat box question.
Okay.
Does the community college have to get ABET accreditation, as now they are testing accreditation for the 2-year colleges?
No, you would not have to be ABET accredited because we're going to be offering the bachelor's degree, not you. So, their bachelor's degree would be from the University of North Texas. They would just do their 1 and 2,000 level courses, their core and stuff at the community college. So you would not have to go through that sometimes painful process of going through ABET accreditation. So you would continue to offer the certificates and associate's degrees and things that you're offering, and then you would just be aiding your students in completing this without having to relocate to another state. I think that's my last slide, except for the one that says questions. Yeah. So are there any other questions, either live or on the chat box? I'm really hoping there's some of you out there that would like to be a part of this, and particularly like to be part of helping to put a grant proposal together to help fund the mentors and things like that. I think there's a lot of your students that would benefit from this kind of program. So yeah, I think Mark's going to go back to where my email address is. Yeah, there we go. So, and I'm also be happy, if you email me and you want to discuss things, we can certainly set up a conference call or anything like that. But what other questions do we have? I know Ann's been patiently waiting for us to hurry up and get to this point for quite a while now. So it's taken us a little longer than I originally thought we would, but I'm happy to say we're fine.
I'm not that patient. Give me a break.
Is it a BA degree or a BS degree? Want to talk about that briefly?
Sure. This one is a BA as opposed to a BS. The reason we went that route is because typically with the BA degree, we didn't, for ABET purposes, we did not have to require as much math and science as we would for a bachelor's degree. Our bachelor's degrees, the science requirements are usually 4 lab sciences, so 16 hours, and the math requirements go into calculus 2 and linear algebra and differential equations and all those kind of things. And those aren't skills that most of the things that we're doing in the IT area and the applied courses usually require. So we didn't see any reason to overcomplicate the degree and make it more difficult for them to get through by going that deep into the math and science area. So it's currently a BA degree, but the employers that we've had so far, and all our students have had no problem finding employment. I mean, about 85% of them have a job before they graduate. Have not had an issue with it being a BA over a BS. So in fact, quite a few of our students get hired early in the program, and then they end up only going to school part-time. So that's not uncommon either. So the other benefit to you from this perspective is this is going to give you another avenue to sort of make friends, make nice with your local industry, because our Capstone program, we really try to emphasize having real projects. So I'm teaching Capstone this year, 2 semesters. So we're doing projects for TD Ameritrade, Charles Schwab, some fairly large companies, as well as some small startups and things like that. So it gives them an opportunity to try out a lot of our students. A lot of the bigger companies look at this as kind of like an extended internship. And the last 3 or 4 years, I've had quite a few of the students, probably about a third of the students in a class of about 40, end up going to work for the people who they did their capstone projects for, because they've done an extended internship with them, 9 months or longer, and they like the work they did, so they pretty much just slide right on in and don't have to go through much of any onboarding process. So.
Hey, David, I just looked up online. Your tuition for 15 resident hours for a Texas resident is $4,200. So it's a little more than you said, but it's not horrible.
Yeah, not bad.
Not
and
bad.
It won't be much more than that with this instructional fee. Plus, they don't have to pay all the fees because they don't have to pay for the student union fee and the athletic center fee and all that kind of stuff. So.
Okay.
Is there any opportunity to designate an area of emphasis like security that's indicated on the degree?
It's not on the diploma, but it is on the transcript. That supporting area, whatever you pick, which we invent names regularly for that. That's why it's customized. You don't have to pick from a slate of 10 choices. You can call it security and networking, or whatever you want to call it. But that does appear on your transcript.
Did that cause you all problems with ABET? Because that was one of the issues that has arisen both with our computer science and IT degrees when we took those programs through that process.
No, so far we've been through twice now, and that hasn't been a problem. So we'll go again in 2021. So I guess we'll see if their attitude has changed. But so far that hasn't caused a problem because we made sure we met all their specific program requirements in the IT area with the required courses. So between the math and science and the required IT courses, so we made sure we met all their A through J or whatever it is with those. So the supporting area courses almost just become like electives. And that was a lesson we had to learn, because the first time we didn't quite do all that, and so we did have some things we had to correct, but we've corrected that now.
That's painfully common, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that whole process is fairly painful. So, I'm glad you guys wouldn't have to do it, at least at the community college.
Okay, if no other questions, you can definitely email me or David Keathly with any other comments or questions. I will send the slides along with a link to a recording of this if you want to share any of this with your colleagues. And I think we're good for now. So thank you for your time, and thank you, David, for the presentation.
Sure. Hey, Mark, I might also mention, I know we're working on this this video. We're trying to put together a video from the perspective of the university subgroup too, so to kind of help explain what it is we're doing there. So hopefully we'll have that to be able to share with you guys fairly soon.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and have a good weekend, okay?
Hey, thank you.